I didn't want to start this video with a joke, mainly because the book is offensive to many touchy subjects. That doesn't mean I don't joke around, but usually I try to joke about the content of the book and not necessarily the subjects that they try to tackle. So I just wanted to inform you as the viewer, if you are sensitive to sexual abuse, animal abuse, psychological manipulation, or domestic abuse, please click away. They are very touchy subjects and I get very heated about them. But for those who are in these bad conditions, I do have the domestic abuse hotline down below. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy. And Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. So let me set the scene for you on how I found this book. I was walking down to my Japanese class freshman year. It was the fall or winter, I would say, of 2018. And while I was walking down my class, this woman was handing out free books. And she had boxes and boxes of this book that she was just handing out for free. As you can see, it has a red cover, so it caught my eye. And it just seemed interesting because I like reading a lot. I just thought that it was just an interesting book that I might read. Boy, was I wrong. I looked through the pages and I ended up going back into my Japanese class and seeing that everyone else also had copies of this book. But then after class, I noticed that they were laying all over benches, on the floor, and in trash cans. And I was wondering, first of all, why are there so many of them? And second of all, why are they just here? Why is no one keeping them? And then when I went back to my dorm, I just put it away and I never really thought about the book. In fact, I probably threw away my copy. It wasn't until a year later now where for some reason it just came back into my mind. The first thing that I wanted to do was figure out what the heck this book was called. I mean, Rin, Tongue, and Dorner, that is not an easy to remember name, especially if you remember it like a year ago. So I had to try to look for it. So I went to my school subreddit and I posted about it to see if anybody else also knew about this book. I can't remember the title of the book or the name of the author, but I remember it being so bad and awful that I didn't even finish it. I remember it was like in 2018-2019 school year, and this author was just giving out these copies of this horrible book because nobody wanted to read them. Anyway, I wanted to know if anyone else remembers the book or the author name, or even has the book still and doesn't want it. I need to get my hands on it because it's been driving me crazy that I don't have a copy of this shit stain of a book. DM me if you have a copy and you don't want it anymore. I would gladly take it off your hands. At first, I didn't think that I would get anybody replying until people started commenting down in my post. Was it a red book, like in a fantasy setting? Yeah, it was. Sorry, should have given a bit more detail. I got a copy at home. If I remember to grab it, I could give it to you next week. That'd be awesome, thank you. Keep me updated. No problem. Well, a week came and went, and I didn't hear from the guy, and I was starting to lose hope. But then I just started asking a few of my friends. I went on group chats and basically asked them if they've heard of this book. I have a question for y'all. Do you guys remember last year when they were handing out copies of a book titled Rin, Tongue, and Dorner, written by Rich Shapero? So apparently his name is Rich Shapero or Rich Shapero. I'm just gonna call him Rich Shapero because that's just how I'm used to saying his name. It was like a horrible book that everyone made fun of, and I was trying to get my hands on it. Mainly because I want to do a book review and expose how stupid it is, as I'm doing right now. Nobody replied, so I assumed that they didn't know what the heck I was talking about. So I decided to go online and see if I could try to find a copy myself. And it turns out that Rich Shapero actually has an app filled with all of the books he's ever written. On it, he has the music that goes with the book, art that goes with the book, and not only that, but basically every single book that he's ever written. None of the music is actually good. All of the art is absolutely pretentious, and it all looks the same. Apparently, they market it as some kind of immersive storytelling experiences. But never in my life have I read a book and then listened to music with words on it until I downloaded this app. And it's free. You guys could get it right now. You can read all these horrible ass fucking books. They're on there and they're free. I honestly don't know why he's giving these out for free. After I used the app, I decided that it was horrible and a horrible waste of my time because I actually wanted to have a physical copy so I could annotate it for you guys. So then I asked my friend to buy a copy of the book for me. At the end of the day, I was on Reddit. I was going with group texts. I was going to individual people to buy this book. I needed this fucking book so goddamn bad. It was absolutely driving me crazy. The guy that I was talking to on Reddit that posted that he had a copy, about a month later, he actually did message me. Howdy. I was the one commenting on your post a few weeks back about having a copy of the atrocious book. Well, I finally remembered to grab it from home.
What?
Well, I finally remembered to grab it from home. Will you be on campus tomorrow so I could give it to you? The next day, I ended up meeting with him and he gave me a copy. And I told him what I wanted the book for. I told him that it was to basically rip on it on a YouTube video and just make fun of it. So if you're watching, I'm pretty sure I already sent this to you. But hello, thank you for this horrible book.
It's good shit.
You're horrible. Fuck you. And then I even found another copy in the dorm library. So I had 3 copies of this atrocious fucking book. I hate it. Now let's talk about the author himself. Rich Shapero. Rich Shapero or Rich Shapero. Whatever you call him, he's a piece of garbage. But before I get to why I think he's a piece of garbage, let's actually try to figure out who he is as an author and who he is as a person. First of all, I tried to figure out what he does for a living. And apparently the only thing I could find is that he's a venture capitalist, whatever that means. He's an entrepreneur and he has many different kind of companies, such as Too Far Media, which is the name of the app. But whenever I tried to research the companies that he worked for, I could find nothing. There was no information about what it actually was. I think one was that it stores people's like information and websites and stuff, which is kind of sketchy. I could barely trust Facebook with my info. Why would I trust this guy with my info? As I decided to try to figure out why he was giving out these books for free, it turns out that that was just the big marketing tactic. And actually, he paid people to do performances and other kinds of things just so they can give these books. He paid for people to get free copies of his books because he just wanted to send them out as far and wide as he could. And believe it or not, that's all we know about him. Besides the fact that he went to the University of Berkeley and now lives in like the mountains of California with his wife and his 2 daughters. Yes, he has 2 daughters. That'll be very shocking at the end of the video. That's all the information we know. That's everything. And this one YouTuber, Henry J, I'll be leaving the video and his channel in the description or right here. He did a really good expose on Rich Shapero and it's absolutely great. You guys should totally check out the video. But he made his video on Wild Animus, which is the first book. And it took him 50 years to write, edit, and publish this godforsaken book, and it's horrible. It's as bad as Rin, Tongue, and Dorner. It's really horrible. I've read it, and I decided that, you know what, he did Wild Animus, he should keep Wild Animus, but I'm gonna do Rin, Tongue, and Dorner because this is equally as bad. As much as he strayed away from talking about the actual book and more about Rich Shapero, I want to talk about this fucking book and Rich Shapero to expose how fucking weird he is, to expose how freaking weirdly like I want to know what the heck is going on in this guy's head, and I feel like these books are the only way that we can actually figure that out. The Terrible Book Club also has a podcast episode talking about, I think it was Too Far. There are lots of these, and lots of people are talking about it, and lots of people are exposing them for how bad they are. It turns out that it wasn't just my campus. He was giving it all around the world, and even in Australia. Like I said, Henry J, he saw that they were giving out these books in Australia, and they were giving them in the United States. He is giving these books out all over the world. Imagine that, for free. He's publishing these books, going to different countries, handing them out for free. He has enough money to publish his own book and give it to people for free around the world. Now that we discussed who Rich Shapero was and how strange his marketing tactics were and the fact that we don't know anything about him, I think that we have a pretty basic understanding of who he is in order to understand this book. Now, let's take a deep dive. And I've read this entire book from cover to cover. I was thinking of cheating, but I wanted to do a lot of research and a lot of actually like tearing apart this book for you guys. And I read it and I got a lot to say. And just to show you guys, I annotated it. There's pages, notes, highlighted sections that I read this entire book, and it's absolutely this Nothing happens in the end, but I'll get to that. So Rin, Tongue, and Dorner. I've been talking about it, but I never really said what it was about. Let's look at the back and read the blurb, shall we? An ice age has driven mankind to settlements at the equator. In Clemency, a transparent dome surrounded by glaciers, planning luminary Dorner hears female voices in his sleep. As the voices become more insistent, he seeks help from neuroscientist Rin, who runs tests to identify the location and import of this interior woman who calls herself Tongue. Rin's increasingly invasive experiments help Dorner to visualize Tongue until he's able to fly through the cosmos of his brain and find the distant asteroid from which Tongue's voices beckon and provoke. Meanwhile, Rin and Dorner fall in love. Is Tongue an agent of change, bringing desire and passion to their lives, or is she Rin's worst enemy? With Rin's guidance, Dorner lands the asteroid where Tongue reigns supreme and explores a mysterious landscape of flames and human monuments, a realm of rapture and portent that threatens to undo them all. With wild imagination and blazing insight, Shapero depicts the inner workings of human desire, probing the depths of our buried passions and revealing their potential to annihilate us or set us free. Did that do anything for you? Did that do anything? Didn't do anything for me. Nope, didn't do shit. It also says that this cannot be reproduced, but this is a review, so technically it's fair use. So I am saying this is fair use. I'm not just telling you everything that happens in this book. I'm reviewing it, I'm critiquing it. Hopefully he doesn't sue me for every cent I have. Now the first page starts off with literally just a sex dream. This whole passage is just a sex dream. The main character's penis is described as the hooked organ rising from his groin. Okay. And then he ends up getting up. Then we're introduced to some world building words. Signaler nipple is one. Joint space, whatever that is. And then there's monitors that check his libido as though that's like something that's measurable. And then to ensure optimal temperature for the city, because it's during an ice age, it tells them when they're too horny for some reason. Anyway, so as he goes to work, it turns out that everyone loves him. That's not an understatement. Everyone loves him. He literally says that his assistant responded to his knock in seconds, her face glowing with affection. Later on, it says that a citizen followed him with her eyes while she drank from a cup. Another woman's gaze shifted, then it returned, brazen, unflinching. And then another citizen, her eyes burned with desire. And then a random person sobbed and embraced him. These are all females, by the way. And then a scene later with his assistant gets oddly romantic, even though they're supposed to have like a professional relationship. And then a waitress literally looks at him and says, "I want you." And then, like I said, we're also introduced to Dorner. It's one of the titular characters. He's basically kind of a John Doe. He's like this basic, everyone loves him, he could do nothing wrong, but he also doesn't have any characteristics, and he's just, he's really smart, really strong, really heroic, and everyone loves him, seriously. A little boy smiled at him. Heads turned, eyes followed. And then minority groups ended up inviting him to sing with them. "Our hero," the woman said. "That's why they love you," his assistant said. "You know how important you are, how much trust they put in you," his assistant said again. The fact that like everyone loves him and he's so important because he's the main character. He's only the main character to be the main character. Also, it's through his point of view, but there's a lot of things that are never explained thoroughly. Like, if we get to know his thoughts, why don't we also get to know his story? Like, this is a story about him, why don't we get to know him early? Like, why are there these secrets? I don't know, it's really strange. Anyway, so then after he sings with some minority groups, he ends up basically saving these people from icebergs that start falling, like on the train tracks or something like that. He literally calms them down by saying, "Calm," Dorner said. "Calm is everything." Anyway, like I said, he ends up getting some dinner after he helps people. He's like saves some guy, which comes back later for some fucking reason. Anyway, after that, he ended up just getting some dinner, and then the waitress flirts with him, and then he goes home. And that was chapter 1. So let's get to chapter 2. So he has another horny dream. Starts just like chapter 1, very original. Tongue is introduced. She's another one of the titular characters as this disembodied woman that sings and talks to him during his sleep. She ends up attacking him with claws and teeth, and I don't know, I guess he He thinks it's hot. Anyway, he wakes up and he injects himself to not be horny. There's a serum that you inject when you get too horny to make you stop being horny. He lost his horny privileges.
Horny people have no rights.
Anyway, he ends up going to work, and his work is basically going to the city furnace. Like I said, this is an ice age, and the city is domed off, and it needs to be warm. So there's like a furnace that like attaches to all the buildings and apartments and whatnot. And it's just this really, really big furnace in the middle of the city that attaches to everybody's house and all the buildings and on the streets, I guess. And he's talking to a few business people that are just bad to make Dorner look good. They're like, oh, you know, we're capitalist business people, which is literally what Rich Shapero is. He's just a capitalist, rich business person. Dorner is the stand-in for Rich Shapero, and he's supposed to be this very sexy, very strong, very independent person that everyone cares about, when in reality that's just what Rich Shapero he fucking probably jacked off while fucking writing this. And I'm sorry that I'm saying fucking so much, but I'm angry. I'm infuriated. This is not the kind of way I wanted to spend my holidays. I know this video is not gonna get monetized. So I don't care how much fucking times I curse. This is the reason I'm gonna be demonetized. Anyway, like I said, he's like this stand-in for Rich Shapero because he wants to be this very masculine, very sexy sex symbol, you know, an attractive chest, muscular with well-defined pectorals. This is describing Dorner here. Anyway, so then he ends up going to the hospital to talk to Rin, who is a neurosurgeon, which is also the last titular character, or technically the first. But she's introduced. Rin talks to him about this spider that gets attached to your neck, and I don't know why it's in the neck, but it helps you read people's minds. But the thing is that the spider has a cord that goes into one of his signaler nipples. It's like a needle that just into his electronic nipple. Anyway, so basically she is the pioneer of this technology that's like supposed to be innovative. This is the first technology that we have to let people go inside of other people's minds. You can physically see the subconscious or the consciousness. It's amazing. It's like awesome. But Dorner doesn't know about it because it's not everyone has it, I guess. And like I said, it's experimental. So Rin doesn't know jack shit about it, even though she made it. But when she's talking about it, she says that it could be dangerous to see somebody else's consciousness. So they have filters or borders. Now I'm going to take a break here to talk about the wording of a lot of these things, because, you know, it's a lot of like, it's basically like surgery, but in the brain physically, like, or mentally. You're going inside of someone's head. It's like surgery. It's like a diagnosis. I just have to talk about the wording for a bit. Apparently when they take you under the mind reading thing, that's called being straddled. Oh, so this is a description of Rin seeing Tongue for the first time. She says it's a dark expectancy churned in Rin's groin. Tongue's jaws yawned at the head of the canal, her scaly length tangling the tubes and trees. Why does Tongue's groin have trees? So Rin ends up diagnosing Dorner with horniness and then just tells him to leave it be. And then Dorner ends up going to work. Like I said, he's working for the furnace, and he's supposed to give this big speech that's televised throughout the entirety of Clemency. And he's basically a glorified cheerleader. That's his job, you know, stay calm, everything's gonna be fine, we're gonna get through this, woohoo. So he goes and he's going to talk about the new furnace that they're building. But then while this happens, Tongue is like,
You're getting possessed.
And then completely fucks it up, and he's like, we're all gonna die, we're all doomed. Basically the exact opposite of his job. So then Rin sees this, and then Dorner's like, did you see it? And then Rin's like, yeah, I saw it, guess you gotta be my patient. Then comes like a few pages of just nothing but filler of like the description of what they see. And it's really boring, and it's really needless. And Rin's motivation is basically summed up in this one line: but it was all for Dorner. Yeah, because every woman's motivation is for a man. Basically, her entire motivation is just, oh wow, I really hope Dorner loves me. What? Rin's character fails the Bechdel test. And if you guys don't know, that's basically the test to see if a woman's character is actually a character and treated as a person instead of just, you know, whatever. Rin seems so fucking horny like Dorner. So Dorner ends up talking to Rin about how he violated other women before. And we get to learn what this means later, but Jesus, that's not a great way to start your relationship, man. And then that's basically how the chapter ends. But like something that like really bothered me in the chapter was the fact that it was never described who is paying for this. There's no insurance. There's no money ever like brought up. We don't know if there's like currency in this world. The world building focuses too much on visuals and not really much about like the government that this is under, you know? Because like I said, there's no money, there's no nothing like that. But like there are things like stores and fashion. You kind of need money for that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I just really don't know. It's not supposed to be a utopia or a dystopia. It's just like a regular society. So I don't really understand what he was going for here. Rin ends up going back into Dorner's head, and then somehow Tongue breaks down the protective barriers like I was talking about, like the filters, which is weird because she's like a piece of his brain. That's right, Rin tells Dorner that Tongue is just a piece of tissue in his brain. It's not like a tumor and it's not cancer, but it's just a piece of his brain, like she's in there. Tongue can't be removed or else Dorner will die because it's very... The surgery is very difficult. It's way lodged into the brain that if they take it out, he'll die. So then I guess Dorner just like, whatever. And days go on. And Rin lives with her mom, and Rin's mom needed the furnace fixed. And so, you know, some maintenance guys came, but for some reason Dorner came with them when his job isn't, you know, engineer or anything like that, or maintenance guy. His job is glorified cheerleader. So then I don't know why the fuck he's with them. Rin tells her mom that they met on the train, even though that he's actually a patient. So then Rin's mom says that Dorner should stay for dinner, which kind of doesn't make sense because he shouldn't really be in the public eye after that whole thing that Tongue did where he's like, oh, we're all gonna die. So then Rin's mom insists that Dorner should stay for dinner. And Anja is introduced. She's, I think she's Rin's cousin or sister, and she's introduced, and she's like a fashion designer, I think, in this world. And it's really interesting because she hates jackets, even though she literally lives in the Ice Age. But she's very, very flirtatious with Dorner. What a fucking surprise. So then for some reason, Rin and Dorner tell Rin's mom about Tongue. But anyway, they say that they're like dating and everyone's okay with her dating her patient. What the fuck? So anyway, back in the hospital, Rin ends up giving Dorner vision when they go into his mind. I don't know how she does this. It's never explained. She just is like, oh, you can see now. So then Dorner gets lost in Tongue's wormhole. I don't know, man. Anyway, and he comes back to life because apparently his like temperature went really high and like his heart stopped beating, and then like Rin injected him with like, I don't know, like something, but he's back. He's awake. He's alive. So then after that, Rin goes with Dorner to his apartment to have sex. And the reason why is because she thinks it'll make Tongue go away. And this is literally how sex is described. This is the one and only sentence that describes the action of sex. 20 minutes later, when her spasms were abating, Dorner held her. Rin began to cry. I think that's an appropriate response, Rin. So then Dorner tells Rin about Yoelise. And Yoelise is a woman that took advantage of him when he was only 12 years old. Yeah, the story's picking up pace. This is some Onision levels of writing. A 12-year-old, and it goes into detail about a 12-year-old having sex with like a 20 or 30-year-old woman. It's shocking. I thought I had what every boy wants. An experienced guide. I'm pretty sure every boy your age wants, I don't know, a childhood? And this is one of the reasons why he thinks that no one would love him or is capable of loving him. And then when they're about to have sex again, Rin tells Dorner to do whatever he wants. Basically because she feels bad for him. Now, that's a lot to take in. Let's review. So basically, he was emotionally manipulating her so that he would get what he wants by making himself look like a victim. And the thing that really bothers me about this, the thing that really grinds my gears, is if Dorner is supposed to be the self-insert for Rich Shapero, what the fuck kind of mentality does Rich Shapero have? I mean, does he think that all romantic relationships are like this? Does he think this is okay? I think that the fucked up thing about it is that Rich Shapero thinks that women, specifically Rin, are okay if you've been in a power imbalanced illegal relationship before with an older woman. No woman would think like that. No woman would think that's okay, especially after you fucking emotionally manipulate her into feeling guilty enough to have sex with you. And as they have sex, Rin finds that he has burn marks, especially on his pee-pee, and then they have sex, And then Tongue takes over Dorner's body, I guess. I don't know. It's never explained. Doesn't make sense. Hey guys, so let's just take a break from all that, and I wanted to just have a segment of lines that made me put the book down. He was a bad boy. He was aroused and quivering, about to climax. He grasped his erection. He sat naked at the kitchen table. It sounds very unhygienic. There was nothing but Tongue. She kept trying to make me spill my semen. God fucking dang it. Rin's higher mind was swamped. Well, to be fair, you kinda need a high IQ to understand Rin, Tongue, and Dorner. I'm here to unload her. Jesus Christ, what the fuck is up with this guy's word choice? You're inside me? Fuck! Goading me, thrashing me, flogging me. What? I can't, guys, I'm sorry. The bowed organ gleamed before her, quivering like a serpent about to strike. This is describing his penis, guys. All that blowing was hard on him. Deeper, Tongue sang. Deeper, deeper. The wormhole gaped. You were a glorious reptile, Dorner said. He said this to Rin, I don't know why. I want to straddle you tonight, Rin said. Closer, closer. Tongue's chorus rose to greet him. Your tissues are flowing. But the purse was a bucket. Alright, let's go back to fucking this horrible book. Tongue is like gone, and this was after Rin and Dorner had sex. Like I said, never explained. So then Rin kisses Dorner's cheek at her mom's house, and then she quite loudly says, "We're going to sleep together," Rin said, "and you're going to need earplugs." To her mom. And like I said, no one has a problem with her sleeping with her fucking patient? After only knowing each other for 4 days, Dorner and Rin decide that they love each other unconditionally. And that one day, who knows, they might marry each other. Oh, so romantic if he wasn't a fucking emotional manipulator. This is erotica. Obviously, but for who? Because the sex is not explicit. The word penis does not come up once in this entire fucking book. If this is erotica, who is it for? Who? For who is it for? Who is it for? So Rin's dad died while Rin's mom and Rin's dad were fucking in the other room when she was like 8. It's implied that she has daddy issues, which makes a lot of sense. And that her dad had a stroke, and that's why she started studying neurosurgery. Later on, Dorner ends up telling Rin's mom that he loves her. It's about a power move. And then it takes about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 4 useless pages to describe the furnace was turned on. The new furnace was turned on. Took 4 fucking pages. 4 pages. And then later on, Tongue comes back. I don't know why. And then Dorner ends up going back into his consciousness and seeing that Tongue is in a meteor. Oh no, Tongue is the meteor. She's on the she's like a big piece of flesh. The thing in his brain is just on a meteor, just. And then apparently he goes to the meteor and sees that it's all gasoline and fire and combust. It's all just on fire. So then when he wakes up, it turns out that his temperatures were too hot and he woke up in a big vat of ice. Then, it's not explicitly said, but Yo-Elise visits Dorner in the hospital, but ends up leaving because they didn't give her permission to actually go inside. And if you don't remember, Yo-Elise was the woman that molested him when he was 12. But that's where we're wrong, because apparently Dorner tells Rin that he was actually abusing Yo-Elise. Even though he was 12, he was manipulating Yo-Elise, a 30-year-old woman, to stay with him in this horrible, horrible relationship. I made her a slave to my obsession. And I think that was the line that made me hate Dorner as a character, and hate Rich Shapero. If this is really supposed to be his weird, demented, oh, this is so hot because I want to be like this, like his weird, demented self-insert, then fuck you. Fuck you for thinking this is fine. Fuck you for thinking this is okay. It's not. Even if it's fiction. If you think that this is okay, if you were to see that, if you were on a jury for a case of a 12-year-old boy manipulating a woman to having sex with him and thinking, you know, burning her and like actually like causing harm, you fucking suck and I hate you. I really do. And if you are watching this and you think that that's okay, please unsubscribe. I do not support any of that. I don't think that's fine. Whether it be underage sex, manipulation, or just hurting someone in general. Just let fucking people be. Just let people be. God, we're only on chapter 4. We're almost halfway there. Rin's mom talks to Rin about Dorner being a patient. So it's like, you shouldn't fall in love with him. And it's pretty funny because Dorner is described as being a good man, even though he has the personality of white bread. Later on, Rin ends up tracking down Yoelise, and she's this old woman with a cat and burn marks all over her skin. Rin says that she wants to talk about Dorner. So then Yoelise takes her to the back of her house in her onion garden. And then Yoelise says that the cat isn't hers. And then she proceeds to decapitate the cat by feeding it to a snapping turtle. But that's not the worst part. She gets the head of the cat, opens Rin's jacket pocket, and stuffs it in there. And Rin runs away with the head of a dead cat bouncing on her leg. Yeah? What the fuck? Dorner ends up comforting Rin and then explains that he enjoys setting himself on fire when he has sex. And apparently he learned this when he was a boy, that he likes setting shit on fire. He stripped in public, as a 12-year-old boy, by the way, and lit himself on fire. And then people watched. People admired him. No, they didn't watch. They admired him. Rin even acknowledges that she heard this kind of pyromania in a workshop on mental disorders. And then, when he was 12, setting himself on fire, he said that when he was on fire, it triggered his climax. And then, when Rin tries to leave, Dorner says, "Don't abandon me." It just makes him look more like a victim, manipulating her even more so that she can stay in this probably going to turn abusive relationship. 20 more pages of filler. Dorner ends up manipulating Rin into a date. Maybe the risk had softened her. So he acknowledges that he risked his life just so she can feel bad for him. Absolutely psychotic. And then she, his doctor, ends up going to this party with all of the big public officials, publicly saying that they're dating and saying that she is dating her patient. And then at Dorner's apartment, they want to have sex again, and he lights a candle next to the bed. And then she even said that she's not interested in doing things with fire when they have sex. So what do you think he does? Does he A, respect her decisions as a woman, B, put the light away or just use the light to masturbate, C, lights his dick on fire, or D, manipulates her into doing fire play? The answer's D. So she ends up replying to his manipulation, "I'm sorry. That was foolish of me." Fucking hell. 3 no's and 1 yes don't mean yes. And then they have sex, and without Rin's permission, he sets her back on fire. Had she been a victim? Without even knowing? Yes. And then Rin ends up reflecting on how good it felt. Sure. That's exactly how a woman will react after finding out that a guy that she had sex with did something without her consent, without her knowing, that she even expressly said that she didn't want a part of. Rich Shapero, not a good look, my guy. Everyone respects Rin more because of the fact that she gained more confidence by setting herself on fire whenever she has sex. But she's just the only neurosurgeon that single-handedly made the technology to read people's minds, go into their consciousness, and visualize the subconscious. But if she, likes fire in the bed, then people will respect her. 20 more pages of filler. Tongue shows Dorner these large monuments that are on the meteor that she's on, and apparently it's everyone that he ever thought was cute or sexy, every woman that he's lusted after in his entire life. There's just these big monuments of them. And Tongue is like, "I want to burn them all. And when I burn them, you're gonna die." And this is the thing. The reason why is because she's literally, the flesh in his brain is dying. It's necrotizing. And it's gonna reach his brain, and he's gonna die with Tongue. Rin and her mom end up having an argument about Dorner again, and Rin's mom even sees the scars. She tells her that she doesn't understand. It's a reasonable depiction of a self-blinded abuse victim, but it's written like she's supposed to be right, like we're supposed to be on her side. So even though she's written very well to be an abuse victim, She's not supposed to be seen as one. She wasn't supposed to be written that way. Rin also calls Dorner's penis the creature that has so often thrilled and frightened her. Seriously, what is that thing? Just say penis. Just say it. Chapter 7 starts with Rin and Dorner having sex in the big city heater. And no, that wasn't a joke. They get caught by that one guy that Dorner saved in the beginning of the story. Do you guys remember that? Well, he's like saved some guy, which comes back later for some fucking reason. And he lets them go. But Dorner forgot his little pin, which, it's unique to him. I forgot to mention it. He has a pin, and it's unique to him. And he forgot it on the floor. Then Elise tries to set Rin on fire by pouring cooking oil on her. And I guess Tongue possessed Elise. Like I said, it's never explained. And I don't even know how that's possible because she's just a piece of tissue in his brain. And then Dorner and Rin decide to get married. Rin wakes up to go to the bathroom until she realizes that her mom is there. And guess what her mom is doing? That's right, she's having sex with the zombie version of her dead husband. Oh, but it's not a zombie because he's on fire and controlled by Tongue. And then Dorner saves Rin's mom by like pushing the zombie away. I'm gonna push him. And then they wait forever with an old woman with burn scars in the fucking bathroom, unconscious. They wait like 20 minutes before they call an emergency van. And then in the emergency van, Rin's mom is like, oh, wow, that was, I loved that. I loved getting piped by that fucking dead dick. And then they talk about Tongue very openly. And then the driver raises the siren as though to drown them out. Before we get into chapter 8, can I just say the title? Forgive this, I won't. I'm sorry. I know this is a horrible joke. It's a horrible joke. It's horrible. It's horrible. No, just cut that out. Cut that joke out. So then Rin's mom died. And I didn't even know this happened until like 20 pages in. And then because it's just, it doesn't ever say like, oh, she's dead or she died. Like everything is told so ambiguously. So Dorner ends up getting fired because he got caught having sex in the furnace. And he also gets fired in the worst way possible. You're on leave as of now. For how long? You're not coming back. Coincidentally, Rin also took a leave of absence from her work. And then they just decide to get married and actually go through with the wedding. And then for the wedding ring, she picked up the dead cat's collar that was in her still bloody jacket. Yeah, very, very romantic. Then Elise was waiting outside of the wedding, but then she just disappears. Anyway, so then they go to sleep and then they enter the wormhole together. I honestly don't fucking know. And that's how the chapter ends. Rin and Dorner end up waking up and then they find out that they can speak to each other telepathically. What? This is never explained. And Anja, you remember her, gets possessed by Tongue and then takes the newlyweds to the roof where there's a big party with all of their friends, which are all possessed by Tongue. I still don't know how. And then they all just start spontaneously combusting. Don't leave me, says Dorner. This is some fucked up shit. This is a weird fucked up mentality that he has. And then the book is almost over. And somehow his character got worse. It's gotten worse over time. Then the city starts to blow up and everyone begins to die. And the rest of the chapter is like a YouTuber trying to reach the 10-minute mark of a very bad YouTube video. Dorner gets naked for the surgery. I don't know why he has to get naked for the surgery. It's brain surgery, but he gets naked. And then she uses anesthetic, which is weird because I don't think a neurosurgeon is allowed to do that. I think an anesthesiologist is kind of their specialty. It gets into detail about Rin chopping off his scalp and then sawing off his fucking skull. And then Dorner, I guess, guides her in the consciousness. And but like she's also there. Like it's described as they're like in a spaceship and she's like in there, but she's also outside performing brain surgery. Oh, by the way, I didn't even explain. They're just like, fuck it, I guess you'll die, but let's get rid of her, you know? Everyone we already know is dead. Let's just try to kill her, I guess. And then that's how the chapter ends. They just go in and then they kill her. They just kill her. Basically, Dorner wakes up from the strange dream and Rin is dead, but Rin replaced Tongue's place. I don't know how this happened. I don't understand it. Then they decide to set everything on fire, like what Tongue wanted to do, killing both of them. And then they both have an orgasm and die. And I'm not joking, that's literally how the book ends. "This is love," he gasped, the climax impending. The heat crowned, Rin began to scream. Dorner raised his arms and opened his nerve. How do you do that? It kind of feels like he ended it mid-sentence. Now, let's get to the actual review. What do I think of this book? What are my opinions on it? Besides what I've been saying when I was summarizing its chapters. Well, first of all, I think that it should definitely not be over 340 pages. It has so many passages that are just imagery and very flowery language that feel like it's like, oh, look at how deep I am. Look at, Every now and then there are blocks of just paragraphs that are just exposition. That's literally the only purpose of the paragraph, is just to let you know information that could have been told with good world building, but instead we're just like, oh, I don't really have a good place to put this. Let me just type it all up. Also, everything is so over-sexualized. Like, sex is the biggest thing here. And I'm pretty sure that he's thinking this is like a way that he can be this cool, suave, sexy guy. But in reality, it's really disturbing. I would like to think that this is his weird, demented sex fantasies, but I also don't want to imagine that a human like that exists. Overall, it's boring. Lots of I skipped a bunch of pages. There's lots of pages that I X'd out because it's just so horrible, and it doesn't do anything to the story. It's just so bad. I think it's overly pretentious. I think that he thinks that he made the next bestseller, biggest book that everyone would be reading, but in reality, it's just this horrible thing that he wrote once, and I don't even think edited, published, and then basically shoved it in everyone's faces. It makes it feel like he thinks that he's this higher being, this person that's so beyond criticism and beyond reviewing his own art that he just thinks that he's this rich person that can do whatever he wants. And I guess that makes sense, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's only doing it for himself. He's only doing this so he feels like he has some kind of self-worth in this horrible, godforsaken life that he's made for himself. And it is dark. It's dark, it's stupid, and it sucks, because that's not an existence that I would personally like, but it's something that he's gotten himself into, and you know what, that's fine. That's fine. If he wants to be rich and wants to feel like he's actually done something with his life, let him do it. At the end of the day, what he actually has done reflects his life, and what he's done is written this horrible book that offends many people, and it's horrible. It's just a bad book, and I feel sorry for this guy. But it's so hard to, because of how rich he is, and it's so hard to because of how superior he thinks he is. He thinks he's just better than the readers. And it doesn't help that Rich Shapero is this unknown face, because it just makes him a target to criticize. You know, it's like, oh, well, he's high and mighty. I'm basically punching up at him, which is fine. I find that to be okay. He has more money than I have. He's written more books than I have. But it's fine, because at least I know that when I write my books, I'm doing it in a way that I'm actually trying to tell a story, or I'm actually trying to flesh out characters. And this one, it just feels like he wrote it all and then published his first draft. Like I said, Henry J., I talked about him earlier, put it very well when he described Rich Shapero's art as art for the artist's sake, not art for art's sake. And that makes complete sense. He's doing this just for himself. These books are nothing but a selfish pat on the back and basically trying to immortalize his life before he dies. He's 71 and oh god. This book was made by Rich Shapero for Rich Shapero. It's not that he's trying to connect with the reader. It's that he's just trying to do something. He's just trying to yell at us. He's basically screaming at a void, and what are we doing? Nothing. He's failed. And it's kind of sad that he's done all this to get his name known, and he's known but very infamously, at least in my group of friends, and hopefully now to you guys. It's a horrible marketing tactic, the way that he just gave the book to random people, but at the end of the day, we never would have heard of him. That's what he wants, to be heard. Well, I'm listening, Rich Shapero, and I've listened, and I regret it. So maybe don't try to be heard if you have nothing to say. Anyway, I know that this is very different from my content, but hey, if you guys liked it, please subscribe. It really shows that this is great. Maybe give it a like or comment down what you liked, because I might do this kind of like book review kind of thing later on, but this was kind of just something that's been nagging me. It took me a long time to write, and I was supposed to have it done by the beginning of December, but I'm releasing it for Christmas, so Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and Happy Holidays for everybody else. Thank you Kakashi officials, William Yang, Bree Ranieri, Wendy Ross, Kawaii Potato, Keegan Busby, and Fortnite Boss for subscribing. I hope you guys are having such a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. And join me next time when I upload in like, I don't know, another 3 months. There, I'm done. I'm fucking done with this shit. Fuck this shit.
You know I love it when you say